Very much for joining us, Minister.
Sure, thank you for inviting me.
Let me start with the refugee crisis in Europe. Europe is facing a major crisis right now. Croatia, one of those countries on the front lines of that crisis. How is it impacting your country?
This is true. We've had 65,000 people enter the country in the last 10 days. It has been a lot of pressure, and it has, in a way, turned everything upside down, so to speak, in terms of priorities. Everybody's focusing now on helping these refugees. But one of the things that was our priority, because it's important for these people, but it's also important for our own society, is to treat these people in a humane, normal way. And I think we've succeeded. At some points, there were 1,500 people entering per hour. They're kids, they're women. I would say that maybe 65 to 35% women and children, 35 men, 65, obviously more men going probably to Germany to find some place to settle. All of them want to go to Germany. What we have been doing is providing them with medical assistance, food. At the beginning, we were registering them, but when they started entering, at this rate of 1,500 per hour, just provided them with lodgings in these refugee centers. Most of them spend the night, some not even one night, and they just want to continue towards Germany. So in the end, I think Germany will need some assistance in that too. Croatia has had the experience, a lot of people have had experience in the 90s during the war of being refugees, especially in this part of the country where refugees are entering now. And therefore there is, I would say, a higher level of understanding and in a way, good attitude. But as you know, this type of pressure is a shock for any society, and we are a small country, so for us these numbers are huge.
Right, now European leaders are trying to find a solution to the crisis. One of the plans they've come up with is a quota system. Not all the European countries are on board as far as that quota system is concerned. How do you think this could be resolved?
Well, the situation is developing so fast, and the quota system is proposed is a good illustration. When quotas were proposed, and Croatia accepted it, we accepted it, and we said we were going to shoulder our part of the responsibility. Our entire quota was 1,614 people, and as I said, at the peak of the refugee crisis, we had 1,500 people entering the country every hour. So the quotas, in a way, were made already, at least the numbers, were made already obsolete by the realities on the ground. Europe has to approach this issue together, but Europe is not enough here. I think at the moment, for short-term answer, Turkey is a very important partner, because all these people are coming from Turkey. They are not coming directly from Syria. The ones from Syria are coming from camps in Turkey. The ones who are more economic refugees or migrants that are coming from Pakistan and Bangladesh are also coming through Turkey. Turkey has been shouldering the responsibility for 2 million people now for years, really. And it needs and deserves help. And I think at the moment, Europe, all of us in Europe, should be talking to Turkey and finding a short-term or medium-term solution in an agreement with Turkey, helping Turkey with money, with capacity building and people to handle these big numbers. But I think that we need to use this winter to bring in a much broader group of countries in order to find a way to stop the fighting in Syria and Iraq. Without that, there is no real answer. Croatia knows the difference between peace and stopping the fighting. Stopping the fighting is not peace yet, but it's the first important and essential step.
Right. Are you saying at this stage that Turkey should accommodate the refugees that are arriving in the country rather than allowing them to pass through into Western Europe?
What is not known, I guess, widely, is that Turkey has actually been doing that now for years. Turkey has been accommodating these refugees at the level of 2 million people for a few years now, and I think it's simply overflowing, and it's too much of a burden, and it really needs and deserves assistance.
There are some countries like Hungary which are building fences to keep out the refugees. Will Croatia consider building a fence?
Never. No, we wouldn't build a fence. We think this is not an answer. And in the end, if you build the fence, it's always you who stay behind the fence. So we were fighting for a Europe that would be opened. And now we are facing the crisis. I think we need to face this crisis together and approach it with a more sort of thinking out of the box approach. And Hungary is also not the chosen destination, like Croatia. These people are just going through Hungary, but obviously every country feels the pressure and sometimes maybe reacts in a rush way, but I think the fences are not the answer.
There's been something of a political backlash in Europe over the movement of the refugees into European countries. It's fueling right-wing extremism. In fact, the European Commission Vice President, Frans Timmermans, said that there has been a surge in right-wing extremism since this started. How dangerous is that?
This is true, and this to some extent might explain the Hungarian, for instance, reaction, because they have some pretty strong, very extreme right-wing political parties. And I guess they want to prevent them from taking more of a political space in the country. I think the answer is really leadership. Leadership in, on one hand, making your own society take pride in the approach towards the plight of these people. And it's possible. But I know that it's not possible long term. You cannot maintain this for years. So this is an immediate answer, but medium term and long term, it has to be finding a solution for Syria, for the fighting in Syria.
Okay, I want to move on to something else now, and that is your future. You have gone on record as saying that you'd like to succeed Ban Ki-moon as the next Secretary General of this organization, the United Nations. Tell us more about that.
This is true. My government has put me up as a candidate of Croatia for the Secretary General. I think this is a fascinating job, and if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, United Nations losing probably in importance and relevance.
There was a Norwegian foreign minister, a former Norwegian foreign minister during the war years, who called this the most impossible job in the world.
It certainly is a difficult job, but I think it has gained in relevance over the past 5 or 7 years because it became the only place where actually everybody who needs to talk to each other can talk to each other. And talking is an extremely important thing. I've come from a country that has been at war 25 years ago, and I understand what the huge difference is, the fact that you can talk to each other, however sometimes unpleasant that might be. So this, I think, United Nations has gained in relevance. Also something that has happened which has made it, I would say, more interesting to participate in the process, regardless of the fact whether you're elected in the end or not, is that the process will be more open to the member states, to the General Assembly. The candidates will actually, it seems now, have to present themselves to the General Assembly and have a possibility to, in a way, say what they stand for and what they've been doing so far, which gives you a chance to make the country you come from more visible, but what's more important, I would say, make the agenda or the ideas that you represent and would stand for also more visible and understandable and closer to a broader audience. So I'm going to enjoy the process, definitely. And we will see how it ends up next year when the Security Council proposes somebody to the General Assembly.
You've talked about your experience. How important is it, and you've mentioned this just a moment ago, to have this kind of post-war experience that you had?
Well, I think it's very important, and I wouldn't have understood it before I had that experience, because I come, I would say, like everybody else, from a country where we thought before this tragedy happened, we thought, it can happen in other countries, but never here. And then you understand that it can happen almost anywhere, and that everybody to whom it happens is surprised in a similar way. It's not that some people think that this is their normal lives. Nobody thinks this is their normal lives. So I think it's an experience that helps you broaden your understanding of the plight of countries and people in conflict.
Do you think there's been a little bit of a breakdown in the system when we look at the situation, say, for instance, in the relationship between the United States and Russia? I mean, would you make it a priority to repair that relationship with Moscow?
I think this will have to be repaired before the new Secretary General takes over, because we are facing now the situation of having to find a solution for Syria, which is in a way also a solution for the refugee crisis in Europe. And this will not be found without the Americans and the Russians and the Europeans, and maybe also a number of other countries working together. So I think we need to work on repairing these relations sooner than this.
And how important is it for a woman to take over the top job at the UN? That'll send a signal to the rest of the world, wouldn't it?
I think that would be very good. I would always argue that it would have to be somebody who would qualify absolutely on merit. But I think there are a lot of women who qualify on merit.
What do you think the UN could be better at? What could they do better?
A number of different things in terms of speed and efficiency, but promoting development cooperation as a two-way street. In other words, where even countries that are used to being on the receiving end, which is not easy, and I also know that from experience, it's not easy to be receiving help. Every country can provide something to somebody, so emphasize that aspect more. Peacemaking, not just peacekeeping, but peacemaking is a very, very important thing. And developing 3 strategies, from war to post-war, how you do this. This is relevant for many, many countries, from poverty to post-poverty. Also very important that it doesn't make a statistically nice picture with completely skewed distribution. And from no participation, let's say, to participatory government.
Minister, thank you very much for joining us.